Unexpected Journey, Memoir of a Siberian Deportee by Juzė Avižienytė-Žukauskiene. Translated from Lithuanian and narrated by Giedrė Kumpikas, niece of the author, and by Isabelle Kumpikas, the sister of the author. Chapter 69. One More Shock. We succeeded in buying 2 kilograms of wool. We were very happy that we would have one more pair of felt boots. Stasiukas and I wouldn't have to share one pair. In the morning, while Stasiukas went with the workers to fell trees, I went to Parbik to card the wool. I was sitting by the machine and I was throwing pinches of wool into the transporter. The machine was sounding rhythmically. It was not cold on the premises. I began to daydream. Suddenly, I felt that there was someone standing behind my chair. I turned around to look. Tomkevičius from Melstroj standing there. He was squeezing his gloves in his hands, looked as if he wanted to say something, but he only coughed and was silent. "Did you come to visit the mill, Oluk?" I asked. "No, I brought Stasis," said Olus rather timidly. "What?" "Don't you become too frightened. He's still talking," stuttered the young man. Lord, what had happened that he had to be brought back? What does it mean he's still talking? I wanted to stand up. I wanted to ask where he was, but I felt as if my back were broken. My legs felt like cotton. I was speechless. Stasiukas had been struck by a tree. He helped me walk to the sled and drove me to the hospital. The cold air sobered me up somewhat. As I walked into the hospital, I was met by a nurse who told me that my son was in the bath and that they were taking care of him. I could not see him then. Shortly thereafter, they brought Stasiukas out on a stretcher. He was pale. His eyes were closed. I went up to him. "My son, does it hurt very much?" His eyes fluttered a little. He half smiled and whispered, "It's nothing." The orderlies carried him immediately to a ward, and they gave me his clothes. I stood there neither alive nor dead. I couldn't even comprehend what those clothes were for. The doctor's voice brought me out of my stupor. "Why are you giving away his clothes? And what will he wear when we release him?" Upon hearing the wrathful voice directed at the orderly, my head cleared, and I said, "Doctor, those clothes are soaked through from the snow and the underwear from sweat. I'll wash them and bring them back quickly. Only release him alive." She waved me away with her hand and walked off to the ward. Having regained my full senses and strength, I flew like the wind to Dr. Shakeniene. She was not at the hospital at that time, but I found her in her room sitting with a guest, Alexienia, from far-off Svetlo-Zelonoye. They were chatting gaily and were sipping tea. Shakeniene, as usual, explained pleasantly, "Oh, how nice, Zukauskiene. Sit down, we'll drink some tea right away." I could barely keep from crying. I only said that a tree had struck Stasiukas. He was in the hospital, and he needed her immediate help, that is, Shakeniene's. The doctor dropping everything and ran off to the hospital as I followed her. In the hospital, Dr. Shakeniene darted past me already wearing her white coat, and the door closed. I was numb, my nerves on edge, as I waited for her to return and wondered what she would say. It seemed to me that I waited a very long time, that Stasiukas had perhaps already died, and that they were only delaying telling me. Once again, all my strength abandoned me. Tomkevičius, who came up, asked me to bring the horse back to Melstroj since he planned to stay with his in-laws. I sobered up again and noticed that it had become dark, and before me once again lay a trip back to Melstroj. I thanked him and promised to lead the horse back to where it belonged. Finally, Shakeniene came out and said, "Don't worry, everything will be fine. We set his broken ribs. The crack on his head is not dangerous. The brain is not affected." I collapsed again. Broken ribs, a cracked head. "Don't worry, there's no danger. I myself poked around that hole with a pincer. Everything is fine. You can see him, only not for long. And don't ask him to talk. He needs rest." I went into the ward. Stasiukas was lying on his back, pale with pearls of tears flowing from his eyes. "Stasiude, does it hurt a lot? The doctor says that you'll be well soon, that there is no great danger. I was calming him and with all my strength trying to hold back my tears. "Mommy, I would really like some hot, very hot tea." The hospital kitchen was no longer working. I ran to Mrs. Jasinskiene. She lived there with Giedrė, Luda's fictitious wife. They immediately lit a fire, boiled some hot water for tea, and having heated an earthenware bowl, wrapped it in some rags, brought it to Stasiukas. I climbed into the sled and drove off to Melstroy. In the morning, while it was barely light, the worker Jablonskis came over. "How's Stasis?" he asked, crumpling his hat. "He looks bad, but Shakiniene is taking care of him. If only he survives," and he wiped his tears. "But how did it happen? He's not a newcomer in the forest, and yet he was caught under a tree?" "How did it happen? We were felling trees. One tree, as it was falling, got caught on a 2-branch birch. What to do? We let down another tree across the one that was stuck, but it didn't knock the other one down. We let down another one. That one got stuck too. I then shouted over to Stasis, who was working further away, and I said, 'You are the team leader. What should we do?' And he, saying nothing, stuck an axe under his belt and immediately clambered up the leaning tree to the top of the birch tree. He probably thought that he would cut loose the ones that were stuck and then wait until they fell and climbed down the birch. He struck with the axe. The blow was strong, the cold bitter, the tree brittle. The top broke immediately, but a branch caught Stasis and threw him down. And he clattered down with that whole bunch of trees. We were extremely frightened. At first, we were even afraid to pull him out. We thought he's finished. But then we managed to turn over the trees and pull him out. He lay there for a while, then said, 'Where's my axe? I probably won't work anymore today.' But he could not even stand up by himself. Tomkavicius ran to bring the horse while all of us stopped working. Stasis asked us to pull down his pants. I helped. He was bleeding profusely. The flood was even more visible on the snow. Probably his intestines were mashed. While the middle-aged man was narrating, he constantly kept wiping away tears. For that reason, the others made fun of him later. They said he wanted a shot of alcohol, and that's why he was crying. What strange things happen in life. Almost no one believed that Stasiukas would recover. I called the hospital every day. Every second day, I went to visit him. He was improving quickly. After 2 weeks, I brought him home, but he got a medical excuse for 2 more weeks. And in misfortune, there is some luck, said Stasiukas. When I was cutting, I hit against the stump with my side and fell next to it. The tree with its entire trunk hit against the stump. A second later, it slid down the other side of the stump. If it hadn't been for the stump, I'd probably be buried now. I had to agree that he had been lucky. Notes, Stasuli, another diminutive form of Stasis. Oluk is a form of direct address vocative case, diminutive of the name Olus, which is an abbreviated form of Alexander.